Hi, everyone. Hi there. I know it's been a long time since you heard from me. I apologize for that. But I appreciate those of you who continue to share my episodes, the podcast, the Rebel Rock Money Talk podcast, and YouTube videos with your friends, your family, your colleagues. I really appreciate that. That's my goal is to just get as much information out as possible so that people can make well-informed decisions when it comes to their financial future. So today I wanted to speak with you about some proposed changes that have been introduced, a bill that's been introduced that will affect many of you who are watching this or listening to this, because if you are someone who has a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA or a 401k or solo 401k, you may be impacted. If you are someone who earns, over 400,000 in singly or in your household, you may be impacted. Okay, so I wanted to just cover some of these things. And the reason why this is important, number one, I wanted to hop in and put this episode together quickly just because time is of the essence. Okay, some of these changes that have been proposed would go into effect at the end of this year. So really in less than 3 months from now, if they are to go through. So remember, it's just a bill. There's a lot of things that can get changed. It's like with a lot of negotiations, you kind of go in with your most aggressive offer, and then you hope to negotiate along the way and get to somewhere in the middle. But the point is that these are changes that are wanting to go into effect very quickly. And so I wanted to cover this at a very high level for you and give you resources to where you can get more information. So you can read a summary of the congressional, like you can read the congressional summary, or if you really want to read the full 800-page bill, you can do that too. But I want to just point you to some resources that I think have been very helpful in helping people to understand the details of this and how you can take action. Okay, so there are templates available, like letters that you can download, sign, send them in, you can mail them, you can email them, you can call your Congress people, your senators, so you can take action very quickly and be loud about it, right? Because this is affecting how your money is going to grow in the future. But for those of you who have been listening to me for a while, or you're my clients, this is why we have these conversations about control, right? So having your money in these types of plans do affect the control that you have, right? So keep in mind that if you have made the decision to invest in a 401k, IRA, those types of qualified plans, you have made the decision to abide by those rules that the IRS has set, because they essentially control those buckets, right? Those are their buckets that they've made available to you. So let's get started on this. A quick highlight or just quick summary. So there's two websites I'm going to point you to. One is handsoffmyira.com. Okay, so this site was put together by John Heyer. Those of you who are in the real estate investing community might be very familiar with his name. He's a tax attorney, CPA, who I've seen it multiple times in real estate investing type scenarios. He's come to speak to my RIA multiple times. So he's very current with tax law and provides great information for those of you who are looking to be able to, maximize your wealth. Okay, so he put together this website. He's kind of summarized the key points that he thinks are most relevant to those of you who are, who have IRAs and Roth IRAs. And he provided some templates, some letters that you can download and, get them out. He also provided a link to the congressional summary and the full, bill that was introduced. Okay. Another website, solo401k.com or solo401k.net, I believe. They have also provided some information that you can tap into. So again, I'll provide some links because I do think it's important for you to be able to just, be well informed, right? If you do have money in these plans in a self-directed IRA, your custodian might already have some type of webinar or information that they've made available to you. So go seek it out, go get informed as best as you can, and then take action, okay? So this is just a very high level summary in plain English for you to understand some of the impacts. Some of this may impact you directly. Some of it may impact you kind of down the road, but you want to understand this now because you want things to be set up in the best way possible for you and your family's finances. Okay. Okay. So the first one limits your choice to diversify your retirement savings outside of the stock market. Okay. So what this is saying is there's part of this bill is basically saying that it's going to limit what you can invest your monies in if it's inside of an IRA. So those of you who are using your IRA or Roth IRA to invest in real estate, crypto, in businesses, basically anything outside of the stock market, you may not be able to do that anymore. Okay, and there's going to be some restrictions and some deadlines around if you are invested in those types of things inside of your IRA. You're only going to have so much time to get out of those investments. Okay, if you're not out of them, which is a 2-year time frame is what I believe it is, if you're not out of it in that 2-year period, that money that's still in there is going to be considered a distribution. So that means that you may possibly have a tax and potentially penalty if you're not able to get that resolved. Okay, so understand that. Number 2, classify certain assets and investment strategies in self-directed IRAs as prohibited. So again, if it's basically invested outside of the market, it's going to be considered prohibited, or it kind of extends some of the rules that are in there today. Make sure you read and understand what those are. Number 3, it disallows IRA investments in entities in which the owner has a substantial interest. So if you have more than 10% interest in your LLC and that's within your IRA and you're using that to invest, there's definitely some changes there that you want to understand. You don't want to be considered prohibited because it means your whole IRA will get basically will fall out of compliance, and then you may have a tax consequence there. Okay, so make sure you understand that. The next one, it may force you to sell certain existing IRA assets by a certain deadline. So what I just touched on, if you are in a syndication or you're in some type of investment where it has a longer time horizon, if you're not able to get out of that within that 2-year period, there may be a consequence. Okay. Forces you to distribute from your IRA any investments that you're unable to sell before the deadline. Again, same thing. Can't get out of it within that 2-year window, there's going to be a consequence. Okay. It eliminates the ability of suitable investors to participate in private capital raising transactions through their IRAs. So for those of you who are accredited, or you've been, investing in private placement or just, again, other things beyond the stock market, if it's been private, you may not be able to do that anymore. Okay. It puts a cap on IRAs. So there is this $10 million limit, $10 million contribution limit that looks like it's in there. Make sure you understand that. I know that might seem very high for some of you. You're nowhere near that at all. But if you are invested in, say, something like crypto, or you're in multifamily or commercial and real estate or something like that, please know that, that $10 million threshold could be attained at some point, and you want to understand what is the consequence of that. Okay. Forces the distribution from large IRAs. Okay. So if you, get to that required minimum distribution age, there's definitely a change in how those distributions will be calculated. So you may already have been in the position where you didn't want to have to take out money from your IRA, but it is required after age 72. And this is now basically increase the size of that minimum distribution. Okay, so you want to understand that formula. Prohibits new contributions to IRA balances exceeding $10 million. So again, once you reach that $10 million cap, you're not going to be able to put any additional contributions in. So it doesn't mean that what's in there can't continue to grow. At least that's not how I understand it, but you would not be able to put any additional contributions in once you hit that $10 million contribution limit. Once the balances have reached $10 million, okay? So, and that's across all of them. It's not like, okay, 10 million in this 401k, 10 million in this IRA. No, it's across the total across all of those retirement accounts cannot, once they've exceeded $10 million, you can no longer put in any more contributions. Okay, and this last one is it gets rid of the mega backdoor Roth IRA. So for those of you who are contributing to your 401k at work, okay, you may be maxing it out from a pre-tax contribution, and then you're doing a backdoor Roth conversion. Okay, so you're able to, your employer plan may allow you to do a backdoor conversion. Okay, what this is saying is they're looking to get rid of that. This may be the last time before December 31st, 2021. That might be the last time for you to be able to do that. Okay, they're looking at just eliminating it completely. Part of this, we believe, is because of the article that came out a few months back by Propublica that talked about, how the wealthy use their money, how they have built their wealth. There was a discussion about Peter Thiel, who was a very early investor in PayPal. I mean, he had stock options, and obviously he basically set the price of pennies on the dollar for what he was able to, purchase them at. But now, he has billions of dollars in his Roth IRA, and because he put in very little contributions, that's a lot of tax revenue that the government was never able to recoup or to get their hands on. So they want to make sure that other people don't get into that position. Now, it's highly unlikely, I mean, it's very, very few Americans are going to be in the position where they're going to put in such little contributions and have substantial growth in their IRA, in their Roths. But anyways, they're wanting to kind of kibosh that. So again, the links that I'm providing you are going to allow you to kind of read the congressional summary of what's been introduced, or if you want to read the full bill, you can do that as well. But it also will provide you the opportunity to download some form letters that you can complete and get them sent out to your Congress people, your senators, anyone who has an ability to, negotiate what's in this bill. I personally think that some of it is a little extreme and is really going to hurt many people in the long run. But sometimes I think bills get introduced without understanding the full impacts. And so that's why it's your time. This is why you need to just raise your voice. I am not a political person. I'm actually a registered independent. I'm not favorable of either party. I don't really, have great things to say about either one. So I'm actually a registered independent. But the party that's in place now has introduced this bill. So I think it's important for you to understand what this would actually mean for you personally if you have monies in Roth IRAs, for solo 401ks, traditional IRAs, if you've been taking advantage of the backdoor Roth, all those kinds of things. You want to understand how you will be impacted, but you do need to act quickly. Okay, so please take a look at the links that I provided in the show notes, download the form letters, and get vocal. Make sure that the representatives understand what your thoughts are in regards to this bill that has been introduced. Okay, so I thank you again for listening. I do promise to get more consistent in sharing information with you, but I wanted to make sure that I got this one out at this time. All right, so if you have any questions at all, and particularly if you want to pursue the opportunity to put money away for the long term without having to deal with changes like this to the IRAs and these qualified plans, please reach out to me. That is, what I specialize in, is helping people put money away and in the most tax effective way so they can have access to it in the long run. Okay, so I look forward to the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to Rebel Rock Money Talk. Take care.